you here is a piece of information, a video that was put out by JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency, and then I'll go through it and tear it apart and show you why not only NASA but the other space agencies of the world are acting in concert to defraud people. And it's my assertion that they're actually doing this to prop up the globe deception. Okay, now I just want to run through a little bit of this supporting stuff here real quick, and I'll get back to the video, but I just want to run through this a little bit. All right, so they're claiming that this is from JAXA themselves, okay, and they're claiming this is actual imagery from the asteroid itself, okay. So they're claiming this was in July 25th, 2018. They're claiming this is actually having been done, okay. All right, let me see, where am I at? Okay. I'm going to go through this here real quick. All right, this is talking about Hayabusa 2. This is the actual mission. Let's come down here where I was at. This is what they're claiming it's doing. Okay. And I think this was on the... Oh, this was on the ion thrusters. Okay, this is what they're claiming that the craft that they're using to catch up to the asteroid is using ion thrusters. I'll highlight this again in the movie, but let me pause this for a second so I can get the right page. Okay, this is more JAXA stuff showing actual that they had actually gotten a selfie of the satellite itself, so you can see its orientation to the asteroid. Okay, but they're claiming this is the asteroid itself. All right, let me pause this. I just wanted to show that this is from their actual there's the timestamps and stuff. Okay, so they're claiming this is actually, see, they're determining sizes with the shadows and the whole 9 yards. Okay, so they're really selling that. There you go. You have an image. Okay. This is another one. This is from space.com. This is in October of 2018. Let's see if this will play here. Commercial, of course, so let's see if there was anything else relevant down in here. It does cite that it cost $150 million. There are also links to oh, here we go. Look at this dramatic music and everything. See, that's from the surface of the asteroid. That's supposed to be the spacecraft going above it. Look at those dramatic photographs. That must be real. See? There's your images. Said those time lapses were captured in an hour. Okay, and just to, this is on GeekWire, talking about the selfie and stuff. I just wanted to highlight this real quick about everything being done with specific intent. Okay, so we've got the Hayabusa, right? And when it flies over, it's going to drop off these two little rovers, okay? And they were Minerva 1 and 2. Okay, now they've named them the Little Owl and the Horned Owl. All right, and let's just take a look at that real quick. The Owl of Minerva, right, which is the Owl of Athena, and you guys that are more into the esoteric little connections or whatever may already realize this, but it's of wisdom in war, okay? But the reason it's important is the Owl of Minerva. Let's go to a philosophical metaphor here. Anybody ever hear of this guy with the Hegelian dialect? See, it's all connected. All right, it's with little hidden meanings. And remember, these are the Japanese. So what are the odds that their little And back when I originally stumbled onto this and I was going to do this, they hadn't even named their little things, the OWL 1 and 2. Like, it wasn't obvious enough for them yet. They were afraid somebody wouldn't make the connection, so they had to name them, just in case Minerva wasn't enough to lead you in the right direction. So, see, the Minerva, Wisdom in War. Okay? Anyway, hold on one second. So I encourage anybody that's bored, but the intent of this is just to show that there is actually a multinational conspiracy to commit a space hoax, and it's done solely to prop up the, not only are they extracting billions of dollars, nearing $1 billion a day. Last year's space budget was $330 billion. A lot of people talk about NASA's $52 million a day. It is up to almost $1 billion worldwide, and I would imagine it won't take many more than a couple more years before it will be $1 billion a day. So anyway, this is just more nonsense, and I'm going to go back through this video real quick, but I just wanted to show you right here. They're claiming that these little guys right here, if you can see my cursor, are the ion thrusters that keep the spacecraft oriented to the asteroid, and the ion engines are right there. Okay, so the question I had initially, because I really didn't know much about an ion thruster, was what was it? How did it work? Why did it work? And so these are real easy to look up. This is just Wikipedia, so you take what you will out of it or whatever. But in several of these, they go on to explain why this supports their space theory, okay? Ion thrust, like down here at the bottom, ion thrust engines are practical only in a vacuum of space and cannot take vehicles through atmosphere because ion engines do not work in the presence of ions outside the engine. Additionally, the engine's minuscule thrust cannot overcome any significant air resistance. All right, so that's what it said. And so I looked at this right here and see could it work on Earth or not, right? And down here towards the bottom, it's basically the same thing. And this is a great definition or explanation here. It says the reason why ion engines work only in space is because of two reasons. There is no friction, okay, meaning no resistance, no friction in the vacuum of space to cause resistance, and being far from the planet's limits of the influence of gravity. Because there is no friction when small continuous pushes over long times. Now explain to me what that means. There is no friction when the small continuous pushes over long times. What does that even mean? Will eventually speed up the ship. Because there is no friction, the small continuous pushes over long times will eventually speed up the ship. The long continuous pushes against what? It just told you there is no friction in the vacuum of space. It doesn't work to slow or push the ship as it would on the Earth. Okay? So let me get to this next clip. That's total bullshit. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. Okay, just one more thing on this. It says that the amount of pressure is important because gas only can ionize or become electrically charged at low pressures, right? This is because more gas or air is outside the chamber, so the electrons are supposed to ionize the atoms in the chamber and bump into the air, not into the atoms. A vacuum is totally empty space, and there is no air pressure to stop the electrons if there is no air. Okay? you probably want to reread that yourself. This is really easy to investigate. Okay, I have something to show why what they've said is not true, and something to why they have their claim is completely absurd. So this first one is an ion generated flight on the Earth, which shows that they were incorrect completely.
Flight shouldn't be things with propellers and turbines, and should be more like what you see in Star Trek, with a kind of blue glow and something that silently glides through the air. When I got an appointment at university, I thought, well, now I've got the opportunity to explore this, and started looking for physics that enabled that to happen. The sort of mechanism that I found that worked was ionizing air and then using electric fields to accelerate the air. What we achieved was the first ever sustained flight of an aeroplane that is propelled by electroaerodynamic propulsion. And that's also, by many definitions, the first ever solid-state flight, meaning no moving parts. Well, the idea is kind of, it dates back until at least the 1920s, where a eccentric inventor at the time started experimenting with high voltage electrodes, and thought he had discovered anti-gravity, which of course was not the case, but that set some of the initial groundwork on mechanisms for creating what's called an ionic wind in the atmosphere, by having high voltage electrodes ionizing air and then accelerating the ionized air. So what we did for this design is to try and stick to something that looks somewhat like a conventional aircraft, but under the wing, rather than conventional engines, it has a series of electrodes, and those consist of an array of very thin wires at the front, and then an array of aerofoils at the back. Now those thin wires at the front are set at a very high voltage, plus 20,000 volts, and that constitutes the source of ions. This is ionized nitrogen from the atmosphere. Now the aerofoils at the back, they're set at minus 20,000 volts, and so that creates an electric field, so the ions go from the positive to the negative, colliding all the way with neutral air molecules and creating this wind that goes behind the plane. And that's essentially how it flies. The flight was about 60 meters long, something like 10 seconds, so quite short. It was constrained by the size of the gym.
Without the negative air molecules, it could not have flown. Without that collision, there would have been no wind.
And so we just asked the facilities manager if they would let us use the gym. They forced us to create a very long and detailed safety management plan, but then we were able to go ahead. Many attempts failed because of various things going wrong, like structural failures, the power electronics frying itself. So there are many first days, but the first day that it actually worked wasn't a sustained flight. It was about 50% power, so it was a power glide. Until that occurred, we still didn't know 100% whether this was really.
But it has to be flown low for air pressure.
Of successful flights, and the first sustained flights followed quite soon after, which were pretty exciting. It's probably the first solid-state flight of a heavier-than-air vehicle, and I think that is has the potential to be a step that is very interesting. Of course, we don't yet know whether it will be practically useful and widely used, and obviously I hope it will be, and have an expectation there are a number of applications. There are definitely some limits. So one of the limits is the breakdown voltage of air, and that varies as a function of altitude. And we've worked out theoretically what the limits are to the thrust density, which is the amount of thrust force per unit area that's producible. Now, what that suggests is that in the nearer term, it will be easier to create smaller vehicles like drones, for example.
Okay, so in that last clip, he clearly stated that there was altitude limitations because as the air thinned out as he went up, it didn't become practical. There wasn't enough push. Okay, so what would happen when the ion thrust got into a complete vacuum? Is it as they claim?
There's the plasma glow in the bulb. Light here. Of course, the lights, the tubes light up real nice. We get a neon. Neon works way back. And look at the nice sparks coming off of that. Is that cute or what? Maybe you can even hear this with the camera mic. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it from turning, and we'll take a look at the ions coming off of the end of those wires, or plasma, or whatever it is. So hold on. Okay, here we go then. Can't go anywhere because I have that telephone pole in the way. But look at that ion stream coming out of there. I'm going to show you something here. It'll actually blow this torch out.
And he just mentioned it won't turn much when there's a vacuum, of course. So he's cranking down the vacuum. Slowly pulling the vacuum down. Still spinning. Still has the ion. The ability to create the back pressure. And it's slowing down, isn't it? It is an interesting experiment. That's what he just said. Still got a little bit of movement, but not quite vacuum yet. There you go. Gee. See, I guess NASA can get a rocket and a spacecraft to move around out in space, but you can't even get a fucking paperclip to spin in a vacuum chamber?
Okay, so I'm going way longer on this than I wanted, so I'll just pick through a couple more points here and I'll wrap this up. So the ion thruster is exactly the opposite of what they've said. It appears that the ion thruster will only work in a highly compressed atmosphere, that it will not work, like most things, in a complete vacuum. I'm sure a lot of people have seen ignition of different types of rocket fuel and stuff like that in a vacuum chamber, or the releasing of balloons in a vacuum chamber, and it produced no thrust. And it appears ion thrusters are exactly the same way. It requires the atmosphere to produce the thrust. So let me go through this real quick and then I'll go ahead and end it up. I appreciate your patience. Okay, so this time I'll go ahead and skip or go ahead and give a little commentary here. Now, it's claiming that the you'll notice when the ion thrusters come up here, so this Earth flyby, I don't even know what they're claiming causes it to do a flyby like that. Somehow it's in a geosynchronous orbit, but it goes ahead and all that momentum is just from launch, and then right here they kick on those ion thrusters and it's able to completely catch back up with this asteroid here, right? Look at the acceleration. Now it does take a little bit of time, but now keep in mind it's only got the little ion deals to slow it down and orientate it, so it's able to catch up and screech, get right above it, and it's good, right? Now pay attention to the asteroid here. Look at it tumble. It's continuously tumbling, and we know that from the animation from JAXA, from their selfie, that they're claiming that the asteroid is actually tumbling like that, right? There's the little ion thrusters. See, the asteroid is still tumbling away. There's a huge problem coming up that I don't know how many of you picked up on the first time. Now, they're claiming that the diameter is 880 meters. Now, we've been told that gravity is produced by the mass of an object. That's the claim. And we've been told up until now that it requires something of a planetary size to generate a gravity. Now they're claiming that this asteroid is made up of like essentially sedimentary type rock, that it's not an iron rock. You can research all this yourself. Now you'll notice that when they get down here low, suddenly the asteroid has stopped turning. Here comes their Minerva, the little owl, the Hegelian dialect, right? Now notice when the little thing drops down. Now I have a question. What causes it to drop to the surface, and then it hits and it bounces? And if you go back and you look at the JAXA information on the mission report, you'll see that it actually, they claim that one of the repositioning moves that it does with its little clever lever that it has inside of here, that it actually remained airborne for an hour and a half. But that still means it came back down, which means that the asteroid itself was generating some kind of a gravity, does it not? Otherwise, how would a tumbling asteroid, right? Imagine dropping down two objects onto something that's tumbling, and when it continues to tumble over, wouldn't it throw it right off? Common sense, right? It would throw it right off, right? This little nifty trigger move here. If an asteroid is tumbling, now they're claiming that it's done several of these moves. When it continued to tumble, what would stop it? The weight of it against what? Doesn't make any sense to me. Cool music though. $150 million, this is the music score you get in the cool cartoon. Oh, and the selfie. $150 million. I want to show you one more point on this and I'll end it. But, they're claiming that the stuff that they show in this animation, if you look at the mission logs and stuff, they're claiming this stuff has been done. What's keeping the box on it? Notice how the asteroid isn't tumbling anymore? They're claiming these moves have been done. And one of these little floating maneuvers lasted an hour and a half. But they're claiming it's going to be on there, see? 2 asteroid days, approximately 16 hours. So they're claiming in 16 hours this asteroid does a full rotation. Or every 8 hours it does a full rotation. So these little things are going to be tumbling around, doing all their little scientific stuff, right? Relaying the information back to the big blue spinning ball, right? This is the cool part though. And you saw from the selfie it's perfectly oriented. You clearly saw the picture, right? And this is a small shape charge that they're going to drop down to the surface of the asteroid and make an explosion, so when they dip down for their little Star Wars maneuver, they can get a fresh sample. Okay? Notice the asteroid is not tumbling anymore. Imagine a tumbling asteroid now. Notice how it zipped down out of the blast radius, tucked away, came back up, landed, boom, touched down on a tumbling asteroid. Zip back up. Does anybody believe this? And we're going home now. How fast is the Earth traveling now? Think about this logically, people. Even the most die-hard globe fanatic. Look at this. Imagine a car coming by, traveling at that speed, and you're getting off the asteroid traveling at that speed. Now the ion thrusters are going to how? Oh, but you're back in the magnetic pull of the Earth? But your ion thruster broke free and caught up with an asteroid? Really? And we're crazy.